Hi, Girl Scouts. My name's Molly. I'm with Girl Scouts of Virginia Skyline in Roanoke, Virginia. And today we are going to be talking about the power of photography, exploring the power of photography. And this is part of the Ambassador Photography Badge, step number 1. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving into this photography badge and covering a bunch of different steps and getting hands-on with our cameras to take some photos. But today we are going to be focusing on the power of photography and learning about it, and just kind of diving deep into that topic. I have been a photographer for a number of years. I first got started with taking photos and doing photography when I was in high school. So it's been a passion of mine for a really long time, and I'm really excited to share that with you. So we are going to start right now, just getting started. I've got a presentation and some stuff to go over, take a look at some really cool, iconic, important photos. So thank you for joining. So let's get started. We're going to talk a little bit about storytelling and the power of storytelling through photography. So when you get started on your photography journey, whichever way it takes you, just think about what story you want to tell. You can tell so many different things. You can use your images to show the passage of time, like taking a picture of a tree in all 4 seasons is a really great way to do that. You can capture emotion. If you like taking pictures, taking photos of people, capturing emotion is a really, really cool way to get very unique, very impactful photos. Documenting changing relationships. So specifically, I'm going to show you this one. This series up top is a series of photos that documented changing relationships over time. So this first photo is in probably the 80s. It documents just a young couple. This other one, the second one, is in, I think, the 90s, so maybe a decade later. It's the couple with a child now. Not just a couple, but a family. And then the last photo, of course, is just the man, much older and all by himself. And so the story is kind of unknown to us. We don't know what happened, what changed, why he's by himself. But just seeing these 3 photos alone tells quite a story all on its own, right? So that's a really cool thing to do. Documenting or storytelling world events. So a great way to show and to tell the story of big events in the world can be through photos. And you can provide a unique perspective. So your story doesn't have to be one particular topic, but showing and documenting things from a unique perspective alone can tell quite a story. So these other 2 photos, I'll just briefly hop in. This one right here is from a photo series documenting how different prisons and jails look across the world. So showing the contrasts, maybe some similarities. Obviously, this is just one of the series, but look at this and think of what other prisons you are familiar with, what they look like, and maybe in our country. And I'm just thinking that was a really cool photo series I found. And then this other one is from another photo series. Our artists are all over here if you want the credits to look them up. A photo series that documented different beauty standards around the world, specifically for women. But yeah, just showing what different concepts are of beauty around the world. And that's a really cool story to tell as well. So we are going to move to our next topic, which is about specifically photojournalism, because I think that that's kind of what I have a knowledge of. I know photojournalism pretty well, and it's I've always found it very fascinating. Photojournalism is just a really, really cool career field, because beyond just telling a story, photojournalism can provide a really unique cultural and historical perspective, right? So I've got just a handful of examples here we're going to dive into. I'll start with war. So photojournalism documenting war can provide, obviously, a new perspective that you're not going to find just in words alone. So whether it's soldiers on the battlefield, soldiers returning home, protests that erupt, and unrest that happen, often accompany war, to this iconic photo of Iwo Jima. I mean, everyone's seen this. There's a monument, national monument based on it. But yeah, photos of war, not only can they tell the story to folks back home, but especially when war photography and video of war started, it really shaped public perception of the cost benefits of war for their countries. And so, you know, historically, photos of war have made a huge impact, not just on public perception, but on moving forward how we as a society look at wartime. All right, and moving on. So natural disasters are another thing that can be documented through photographs in a completely different way than you're ever going to understand the scope with words alone. You know, you could read a news article about the eruption of Mount St. Helen, but seeing an actual photograph of the scene of what that actually looks like is completely different. And not only that, you can see, you know, the large scope of the damage, for example, with this photograph of the tsunami in Japan, but you can also see very personal individual experiences. You know, none of these photos that I chose include, you know, close-up emotional photos of people, but think of the times that you've seen photos like that. They make a huge difference. You can really understand what the people in the photographs are feeling, or as much as we're able to understand it if you've not been through that. All the way to the Australian bushfires that happened just this past year. You know, the news reports were devastating, but seeing the photos of the extent of the damage is, not only is it a historical record of the event, but it really, really does, it provides a very good perspective to those who are not there to understand. All right, and then moving on to just big world events. So photojournalism and the power of photography in capturing these big monumental world events are huge. And I mean, some of these photos like the moon landing or VJ Day are just iconic. I mean, you probably know the story behind these photos before you even had to think about it, right? All the way up to current world events that we're all going through right now. Photos of this time of experiencing coronavirus, they're just going to be very impactful when you look at them years from now. You're going to remember what it felt like to go through this event together, and having, again, the photographs of these experiences just has a lot of impact and a lot of power. So moving on from that, I wanted to leave you guys, this is my last topic today, to talk about women in photography and some really famous, well-known, important female photographers to talk about. So Dorothea, she is an American photographer. She was known for her super emotional photos captured, particularly her work during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. This is a picture of her up here. And then these are some of her photos. This one in particular, it's called Migrant Mother. It's probably one of her most well-known photos, and with good reason. It's extremely emotional, really just shows the furrow in her brow shows so much emotion. She's just got a great expression, and the composition of this photo is beautiful. And again, the power that these photos have even today really says a lot about the power of photography, I would think. All right, so moving on to the next, we've got Margaret Burke White. This is a photo of her. I love it. Such a cool photo of her at work. She's a photographer known for her socio-political commentary through her photographs, and she worked particularly during times of war or political upheaval and unrest. So, you know, we've got some wartime photos over here. And then this photo taken during the civil rights era. She documented a lot of, you know, the struggles of those fighting for desegregation. And then down here, she worked for a long time in India with Gandhi during his, political action and protests as well. So next, we are gonna shift and talk about Annie Leibovitz. Arguably, she is one of the most well-known, I would say, female photographers of our current time. She's very, very well-known. If you don't know her, this is Annie right here. So she is a portrait and commercial photographer. She's known for these dramatic, very striking images, and she works a lot of times with very notable individuals or celebrities. So obviously you probably recognize the faces here, the Queen, cover of Vogue. So yeah, she's got a very specific and unique style. She just always has, most of her photos, you'll see them and you'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, that looks like an Annie Leibovitz. She's got a very specific style, and it's just very striking and dramatic. All right, and then last but not least, Jodi Cobb. Some of her work is some of my favorite. It's beautiful, beautiful work. She's a photojournalist. She's got experience working in 65 different countries. She worked for National Geographic, among other publications. And she is known for her intimate documentation of different cultural traditions. So obviously these are just a few examples, but she just really takes an up close, in-depth profile of the places she works and the cultural traditions that she covers. And I just, I think it's very powerful, and it really just, it takes us back to right here, just the power of photography is huge. And I would encourage you, if you have not ever done so, to just look up a number of photo stories. Just a big, important photo story, a series of photos, maybe by one artist, or maybe there's a gallery near you that you could visit virtually, if not in person. Just take a look, examine the power of photography. And like I said, in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing some more of these badge topics, going deeper into photography and getting hands-on with our cameras, taking some photos. So I hope you'll join for those, and thank you for joining today. Bye.